Gut, jetzt gehen wir zu der Grammatik ein bisschen. Ne? Superlatives. That is a grammatical word. It applies to adjectives. And a superlative is something that an adjective is in its highest form. We use, in English, we make superlatives usually by putting an est at the end of it. So if I have the word, we're looking at the word schnell here in German, but in English, we have the word fast. That's an adjective. I can say, my car drives, well, I can use it as an adverb, say my car drives fast, but I can say my car is fast. That's one of its qualities, fast. But my son's car is faster. That's a comparative, but of all of them, my wife's van is the fastest. That's the superlative thing, and we use est for it. I've mentioned before that German and English are closely related. We shouldn't be too surprised to find a st in German as well. So here we have superlative says it's the highest degree, so the most is something. And there's two different forms. If you use it predicatively, and that means you say something is that, then in this one you can say am schnellsten. And this is actually adverbally used. So mein Auto fährt am schnellsten. My car is the fastest. But if I'm going to use it before something to say the fastest car, then you just use st and put adjective endings on here. So mein Auto ist das schnellste Auto. So the takeaway is if you've got a verb like ist, I can also say mein Auto ist am schnellsten, and you're not putting a noun right afterwards, then you want the am and sten at the back. If you don't, if you got a the or and you've got the noun you're talking about, then you're just going to have a st right in front of it without the am. It's a little confusing, I know. It'll take looking at examples to start getting a feel for this. But they both have the st thing, you notice that. You can check this out. There's not so much irregularities. It says all regular adjectives take the st, but sometimes you added e just to make it easier to pronounce. Like, let's look at this one here. Am wildesten. How would you pronounce the wild and the sten? Am wildesten. It's pretty hard. So the e is there to kind of smooth it over and make it easier to pronounce. Same thing with the t sound, stolzesten, not am stolzesten. You put an e in there. And then if you've got an s sound there already, you can drop the new one. So you say am größten, but you don't put the extra s in there. This one covers them both. So now there are some that are irregular. Ich mach das gern. I like to do it, but ich spiele lieber basketball. We've practiced this, especially in German 101, quite a bit. And now you want to say it's my favorite. I like it best. Am liebsten. Also, ich spreche gern Englisch. Ich spreche lieber Spanisch, aber am liebsten, my favorite war, am liebsten spreche ich natürlich Deutsch, klar. Gut, besser, am besten, good, better, the best, viel, mehr, am meisten, a lot, more, the most. They're actually irregular in English too when you think about it. You know, just like we have them right over here showing you that in English as well, it can be a little problematic. Sometimes they'll change just a bit here if there's h's involved. Etc. If you look at there's just some slight spelling things. These are things you just have to memorize. Hoch, höher, am höchsten. So this turns into a k sound there. There are historical reasons for that, but we won't go into those here. So look that over. You're going to want to consult back here when you work through the activities here. Let's look at comparisons. First of all, this is review, because in order to do superlatives, you have to know kind of what the comparatives are back in Unit 2. So that's from a long time ago. Ich bin groß, aber ich bin größer als. I'm bigger, taller than. So groß wie, as tall as, nicht so groß wie. This größer is the comparative thing. And you need that for the superlative too, as we'll say. So you might want to look back at that little bit, or just study this here on the screen. Here are some they're adjectives that when you put them in a comparative and the superlative, they get an umlaut on them. So there's alt, älter, am ältesten. Notice also here, because it ends in t, you've got ältest, not ältst. Groß, größer, am größten. Notice here no extra s, because there's already an s sound. And you got to go to the sound. Hart, härter, am härtesten. It ends in a t, so you get the e there too. Jung, jünger, am jüngsten. You get the umlaut, but everything else here is normal. Kalt, kälter, am kältesten. Ends in t, kalt. So of course it's kältesten, not kältsten. Kurz, kürzer, am kürzesten. Lang, länger, am längsten. Oft, öfter, am öftesten. There's extra e because of the t. Stark, stärker, am stärksten. Warm, wärmer, am wärmsten. So those have the normal things. And they get the umlaut just like they do in the comparative. They're usually single syllables, and most of them take an umlaut. Not all, but most do. You kind of have to learn which ones do. All right, activity A. All you're going to do is find the comparative form. If you don't know what it is, you can look back a few pages here. You can look back at the beginning of this video on the grammar part, or you can go online and investigate. Just find what it is and write it in there. For B, you want the comparative. Then you find the stem, put the st or ist on it, and give me the superlative form there. You've probably seen some of these. That's already been here. We just saw that a minute ago. Work through it yourself to make sure you kind of get a feel for how it's being formed. So if you're going to copy it, look it over carefully and make sure you understand it as well. Take your time. And this is one way to look at language. I like just learning it intuitively by hearing it a lot, but this brings your attention to it and it can be useful for many of you. Now, irregular adjectives. We looked at that list I showed you, größer, teurer, höher, näher, and then here's the stem, and then figure out what the superlative form is. Feel free to check your work online. There's wiki words or other sites that can tell you what these forms are. For D, cities. Find your own adjectives. So what we're doing here is moving away from mindlessly finding the form to thinking, all right, what can I say here? What kind of adjective do I need? And now that I've said an adjective, how do I make it a superlative form? So die Kleider, those are dresses, in Paris sind. So what are they? Are they the reddest? Are they the blackest? Are they the most beautiful? Are they the smallest? Whatever you want to say, come up and we've got sind, right? Die Kleider sind. So because this is, what did that call? Predicative, you're going to have the am thing here. London, in London is die Einwohnerzahl, and then it's also predicative, so you're going to want the am. Einwohnerzahl, number of inhabitants. So I don't know, what do you want to do? Do you want to say largest, smallest, largest, most disease-ridden right now? Who knows? You can put it there. Von allen Wolkenkratzern, as skyscrapers in Europa, sind die in capital city in Moscow. And then what do you think they are? Are they the reddest, the most communist? I don't know, whatever you're going to say. And that's going to be predicative too, so you want the whatever. Die Cafés in Amsterdam sind, I don't know, most buzzed or something. They have a lot of drugs over there. So you figure out whatever you want to say for die Cafés in Amsterdam. Maybe they're the cheapest. I don't know. Maybe they're the Dutchest, whatever you're going to say. So fill in the things there, come up with your word that you want to express, and then put it in the superlative. For E, it's even more open. Now you have to come up with whole sentences on your own. So think about some cities that you want to talk about. Here are some of the words we had in the previous text. You can use them or not. Einwohnerzahl, number of inhabitants, buildings, Wolkenkratzer, the skyscrapers. You can talk about die Parks. You can talk about die Gebäude. You can talk about die Wohnhäuser, the apartment buildings. You can talk about die Straßen. Just think about whatever you want to talk about in a city. And you want to say they're the biggest, the smallest, the longest, the cheapest, the most expensive. And then once you've kind of figured out what you want to say, get the draft down and then check and make sure that your superlative form fits with all the activities that you've done to get you ready to kind of do a more free-form activity like this as the summative demonstration that you have an idea of how to make superlatives in German. Gut, vielen Dank. Ich freue mich auf Ihre Arbeit. Tschüss, auf Wiedersehen.